Hello, and thank you for watching. Happy New Year. This is the first video that I've made this year. There might be some more related to the new year, but today I'm going to do a book review for you, and the book I'm going to review is All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. And I don't have a copy of it right here because I read it on Kindle. I have his other 3 books in paperback, and I was planning to get this one also in paperback, but it came up as a Kindle deal, so I just bagged it real quick. And I just finished reading it yesterday, and I have been meaning to do lots more book reviews, but I have an absolute terrible memory, and I forget details like almost immediately. So I thought I'd do this one straight away before I forget all the details. Apologies, it's freezing. I've got my hat here and I've got my neck warmer on. There's loads of snow outside. Okay, so All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. It's a kind of a crime novel, and it centers around 2 characters. Joseph, who's generally called Patch because he's only got one eye, and when he's a kid he's kind of treated like he's a pirate by his mother to try and make him feel more comfortable about himself. And Saint, who's lives with her grandmother. Her parents aren't on the scene. I can't even remember if they were mentioned where they are. And she lives with her grandma, and she's his best friend, and she her hobby is growing bees, or breeding bees, or whatever you call it, beekeeping, I guess. And basically, very early in the book, Patch, when he's 13 years old, he's I can't remember what he was doing. He's wandering around in the sort of woods or something, and he comes across a guy trying to abduct a girl from his school, and he basically rescues her, but in doing so he is abducted in her place. And so he's taken, and then the first part of the book is about Saint, who's still basically a kid, trying to find out what happened to him. And I don't think it would be a spoiler. I'm not going to put spoilers in until the point where I say, no, I'm going to talk about spoilers, and then they're just going to come thick and fast. It's not a spoiler really, because it happens right in the first sort of quarter of the book, to say that she manages to figure out who's got him, and basically with the help of some impromptu police showing up, manages to save him. And that's the sort of intro part of the book. The first sort of 20% or so of the book is that Saint basically manages to figure out who's got him and where he is, and frees him. But it's what happens after that that is the main part of the story, because while he was in captivity, he was kept in complete total darkness for a pretty long period. We do find out right near the end exactly how long it is, but it's kind of it's sort of made out to have been quite a long time. And he's been kept in total darkness, but while he's been in total darkness, there was a girl in there with him, and this girl calls herself Grace. You know, we don't know at the start whether that's a real name or not, we just assume it is. She calls herself Grace, and she basically talks to him to help him through it, and basically telling him in really intricate detail about her life, places where she's been, things she knows. And by doing that, she keeps him alive until he's rescued. But when he's rescued, she disappears, and the rest of the book after this point is about Patch growing up, and we end up from he's 13 at the start of the book, and he ends up, I don't know, about his 40s, I think, and the rest of the book is him trying to find her. And he goes about this by basically learning to paint what the images that she gave him, and it becomes a lot wider about him trying to basically find all these missing girls that are related to the murderer, or because he's trying to find out which one was Grace, and it's all about him hunting for Grace. And at the same time, there's all this kind of interconnected relationships between both him and Saint, who they were super close beforehand, but now that he's got this other girl in his mind that some people don't even believe is real, like the police are like, yeah, he just made it up. Saint is trying to basically patch up, that's not supposed to be a joke, her relationship with Patch, but he's now moved on to someone else. And then there's this other girl, this girl called Misty. He really loves these weird names, this Chris Whittaker. His books are just full of them. There's never like a Simon or a Dave, or like a Margaret. They've all got they're weird names, and anyway. And there's the other girl, the girl that he saved, this girl Misty, who also is super indebted to Patch. And basically it starts off that she's trying to sort of basically pay him back for saving her, to the point where they end up in some kind of a relationship. I don't want to go too far because that would be spoiling the story, but it's incredibly all right, so that's the basic premise of the story. The story is basically about Patch trying to find Grace, while Saint is trying to also find Grace in order to kind of save Patch, who's obsessed with finding this girl. And so anyway, the story is set in Missouri in America. Missouri, going to apologise if I can't pronounce it right. Chris Whittaker's British. This is one of the things that just amazes me. He's British. I'm British. And he writes all four of his books that he's done so far. Tall Oaks, All the Wicked Girls, We Begin at the End, and now this one. They're all set in kind of like the sort of, I guess it's the deep south of America, Missouri, Colorado, Nevada. I don't want to say too much because I'm rubbish for American geography, but that kind of area. And I don't know if it's authentic, but it really feels authentic to me. Like I think it's amazing. The settings are just fantastic, and the characterization is just fantastic. Like, to summarize, it's a complete masterpiece. Like, all of his books are just unbelievably good, but they're so dense. Like, I tried to read two of them back to back and I couldn't. I had to I finished one and I tried to read the next one, bought two at the same time. I just couldn't read them back to back. They're just it's too deep, too involved. There's too much going on. They're very intense books, and there's so many plot threads that are just woven together, and it's absolutely incredible how he does it. Like, I mean, they're long books. This one is close to 600 pages, and in saying that, I've seen some reviews that say it kind of sags a bit in the middle, and it does a little bit. Like, I was halfway through and I'm thinking, yeah, this is the book that made him really famous. It was like a bestseller and it made him big. I think this is his fourth book, but the other three were all good. They're all just as good. But I was thinking this isn't as good as the other books, because it does kind of sag off a little bit in the middle, sort of this kind of wilderness years section. And then the last third kicks in. And from, obviously on my Kindle, I think about 75% onwards, it was just reveal after reveal after reveal. And it was like, it was so good. It was just coming. I read the last 150 pages yesterday on a way back to and from a ski trip. Some of it, my snowboard strap broke, so I ended up sat in the cafe for an hour and a half while my wife and daughter were skiing, and so I just nailed it on my phone. It was oh man, the last third of it is just unbelievable. It's so good. It's just bang, 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 bang. Here come the revelations. Here come the twists, and you're just like, not another one. Oh my god. It's I can see why it made him big. It's really, really good, and God knows how he did it. I mean, it says at the back, in his acknowledgement section, he lists about 30 odd people that thanks about 30 odd people. Like, in my acknowledgement section, because those of you who've read this probably know, I'm also a writer. Jack Benton Slim Hardy Mysteries, get in there, 10 books now. I thank the proofreader and the cover designer. No one else does anything. I do it, everything. And he's got 30 odd people that, thanks for your wine dates and your coffee mornings and all this. So I mean, he must have a lot of input from other people helping him along the way. But I mean, it's a serious feat of writing. It really is amazing. Like, I can't wait for his next book. Like, I'm proper fanboy now. Really, really fanboy. Okay, from this point, I'm going to talk about actual specific things, which will be possibly spoilers. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, let me just check how much time we got. Okay, I'll put in a few more minutes. If you don't want to hear any spoilers about the book, you probably want to stop now. Go and buy it. You will not regret. If you like crime, you will love it. It's brilliant. Okay, so anyway, that's one thing I'll say, is that's the kind of difference between mystery and crime. Like, we know pretty early on who killed these girls. And he's this guy called Eli Aaron. He's this kind of like photographer in the town. And after Saint busts Patch, he kind of just disappears. And, he disappears. And it's kind of quite vague on how he disappears. It's in like a sort of house in the woods. And he just kind of like, they set it on fire. And he just kind of vanishes, and there's some speculation that he might have burned to death in the woods somewhere. But then he just kind of disappears out of the story for about 250 pages. You don't hear another thing about him, while Patch goes on this mission to find Grace, basically by remembering every single detail that she told him, going to places that match those details, and also by painting his image of her in his head. And he meets this guy called Sammy, who's this like total, like, he's like just on the lash all the time. He's basically on the lash all the time. He's banging all these women, and he's like a sort of cool art dealer guy. And he just takes Patch in and basically gives him all these tools and teaches him, gives him the time to learn how to be an absolutely amazing artist. And the art part of it is a real thread right through, to the fact that he starts becoming famous because he starts painting dead girls. And to raise awareness of their image, not more than just a photograph. And he just becomes so good at it. And and even when he does some bad things, because he does, he's redeemed all through all of it because of the people that he helps. Like he manages to help. One of his paintings helps to find a girl that's been in captivity for 2 decades and reunite her with her family and things like that. And that is like a little thing that comes back right near the end as a kind of a plot twist, and it's amazing. But you can always, with any great book, there are things you can criticize, but they're minor things, and you've got to remember it is a story. And you can be a little bit kind of vague with this detail, or a little bit, sort of push that a little bit too far. There's some of the things, like for example, Eli Aaron just kind of vanishes. That kind of was like, what? Did he actually disappear? Why no one seems to be looking for him? Why don't they hunt him down? And also the sort of the big Grace reveal. I won't say what it is in case you're just carrying on listening. It isn't as good as it was kind of a little bit flatter than I expected. And when you look back on it, you're thinking, yeah, like if I'd have thought a little bit harder, I might have like picked that, because he does basically figure out who she is at the end, and you're like, yeah, that was kind of like telegraphed. You could have seen that really if you were thinking deep enough about it. And also, like when Patch starts to move away from Saint, who just basically loves him, whatever, and is trying to look out for him all the time, because his mother's like, it started out his mother's basically either an alkie or something like that, and can't look after him very well, even though she loves him. So he ends up staying at Saint's grandma's house all the time. But this other boy comes in to sort of starts trying to be friends with Saint, this kid called Jimmy Walters, who's like a church boy, and he starts trying to hang out with her, basically just trying to be her friend. And he gets kind of like, the way he's treated, I found it a little bit difficult because he sort of comes across as just trying to look out for Saint, and then he does something really, really bad about halfway through to her, because she ends up married to him. And you know, but he's just kind of made out to be like this real sort of like, he just gets turned into a bad guy, almost as though they needed an antagonist for the mid part of the book, because Eli Aaron's just vanished, and you know, the other guy that's suspected of being involved with him is in prison on death row. And so they make this guy Jimmy Walters out to be this like real bad guy, but he's, you know, he reacts in a way. Okay, I'm going to give you a massive spoiler now, so please skip the next minute or so if you don't want to hear this. Basically, Saint doesn't want to have a child because she wants to follow Patch, and the FBI want her to join because she ends up joining the police. And so Jimmy Walters, he's a church boy. He wants to be a veterinarian, but he keeps failing his exams, and they make him out that he turns into a slob and all this kind of stuff. You know, he wants a kid. She's off doing whatever. She gets pregnant. She comes to see him, comes home, and she drops that she went to a clinic. And Chris Whittaker really loves abortion, or likes the topic of abortion. I don't know his personal feelings, because it shows up in some of his other books, like All the Wicked Girls was all about, that was a main plot theme, was abortion, or you know, whether it's whatever. And it's in this book, it's comes up a lot, you know. And she drops in, I went to a clinic. He flies off the handle and basically beats the shit out of her because he really wants a kid. She's shown no interest in it. And then we find out, this is a big spoilers, don't watch if you don't want to know, right at the end, that she didn't have an abortion. She just didn't finish her sentence. He didn't give her time to finish, and so he beat the shit out of her when she's pregnant. But she has the child and gives it up for adoption, and she's been keeping an eye on it ever since, which is completely not mentioned until right near the end. And then of course later on, Patch ends up in prison because he bumps into Jimmy randomly, remembers what he did to Saint, and kills him. And and I was thinking, like, you know, I don't condone domestic violence in any way, shape or form. I think it's absolutely abhorrent. But when she's sort of, the way she said to him, you could kind of understand. He was desperate for a child, and she's just going off doing whatever, living in an own flat in another town. And you can kind of understand that he might have been upset by it if she hadn't said it in a certain way. So he's just made out to be a villain, and I was kind of like not really, I didn't really like the way he was just made a kind of the evil guy scapegoat, when he started off just being this kid that was just trying to look out for her. But anyway, so that's a minor gripe. In such a complex book, there's going to be a few. Let me talk about some of the stuff that was really good. The prison bit with Patch, and the breakout, and the whole him meeting the doctor guy from who's supposed to be connected to Eli Aaron at the beginning, and the doctor guy's connection with the police chief, and the way Patch breaks out of prison. And that was just the plotting, my God. Like, I want to reread it to see if there was clues, because it's just so, it's perfect. You know, I mean, you have to suspend a little disbelief a little bit, because some of it's a little bit like, really, you know, and coincidental, but it's the intricacy of the plotting is fantastic, absolutely amazing. So anyway, I don't want to talk too long because I've got to go home, because I want to go to the doctor, pick up some test results for my employee health check. Cholesterol's high again, oh my God, every year. So anyway, that's my review of Chris Whittaker's All the Colours of the Dark. It gets a 10 out of 10 from me. It was amazing. Read it. Just absolutely brilliant book. Brilliant book. That's all I have to say. I'm very cold. I will speak to you again at a later date. Have a lovely day and read Chris Whittaker's books. All of them are great. Right. See you. Bye.